to the Moto Alchemista channel. Cordona has produced another plug-and-play quickshift, the PQ8, this time for the VOGE DS800X Rally, and I'm going to show you how to install one. And you're going to get the unit in a neat little box. I didn't, because it was this actual bike that was used when developing the quickshift. So I had to, tear it down to make a video for you guys. And I also want to mention that you can use this video if you want to know how to remove most of the front fairings as well as the tank. Begin by removing the pillion seat and disconnecting the cable for the seat heating. Remove the two bolts at the back, take away the saddle, and continue by removing this bracket. Loosen the bolts at the rear of the top tank fairing and on each side. For all the fairings, you'll use Torx in 3 different sizes. And the unit is going to be fastened with Velcro under the seat. This little hole right here is something you're going to have to drill. Remove the plastic bin. Loosen the bolts for this little top tank fairing and remove both the top tank fairings. Disconnect the 2 hoses, the cable, and originally here there's a zip tie that you need to cut. And like on any similar adventure bike, there are plenty of bolts, so I like to lay them out in a pattern to remember where they go when reassembling the bike. Loosen the bolts and nuts for the front of the crash bars, and you're also going to want to remove the deflector. Disconnect the cables for the auxiliary lights, and there are a couple of cable ties you'll have to cut. Remove the 2 remaining crash bar bolts on each side, and then remove the crash bars. For this outer panel, remove the bolts at the bottom, and then there's one on the inside behind the turn signal. I can't really get a good angle at it, but you'll feel it if you reach underneath the front with your hand. It's fastened from underneath here. On each side, remove these 4 bolts, then on inside front, we're only going to remove the 3 bolts on one side, rider's left. Remove the 2 bolts at the front under the headlight, the ones at the rear of the tower, and the one next to the fuel cap. What you see in this video is to be done on both sides, so if you're working on your own bike at the same time, just pause the video and hit play whenever you're ready. We're going to loosen the 2 bolts closest to the front on the side windshields to access a bolt behind them. The tool fits between the windshields to reach the upper bolt. After removing the side panel, you'll find 2 more bolts to remove on each side of the tower. The bolts here by the radiator cap is the only difference between the 2 sides, otherwise the bolt layout is exactly the same. Now you can remove the tower in one piece. Remove the last 2 bolts at the top of the inner side panel, disconnect the turn signal cables, and then you can remove the panel together with the radiator protector. Another bolt, this time on the side of the tank, and the one from above at the front. When lifting the tank, the intake manifolds tend to stick a bit, so pressing them down with your hand makes it easier to lift the tank off. And we're going to wedge something under the rear of the tank and disconnect the fuel hose on rider's right. You might want to put some paper underneath in case of a small fuel spill. Unplug the connector on rider's left and do not touch the middle one. Now you can remove the tank completely. Loosen the bracket holding these cables and hoses. Remove the bolt between the manifolds and loosen the clamps. Disconnect the hose on rider's left and use a screwdriver to free the cables running along the right side. Then you can remove the airbox. And now the quickshifter installation itself begins. Remove the shift rod, and these 2 bolts have Allen heads, and unless you bought replacements, we're going to reuse the unibolts, so loosen the lock nuts and unscrew them. Note that the Cordona rod is double-threaded, so you need to be fairly precise when fitting the unibolts. Thread them all the way in, then back them off at least 1 turn. That prevents constant preload on the sensor, which can cause false readings. And once it is backed off slightly, lock the nut and torque to about 10 Newton, which is 7 pound-feet. You can use Loctite as per Cordona's instructions. Personally, I don't. Make sure the unibolts are aligned and that the cable runs straight along the side. The amount of threads shown here should be equal on both sides. The unit is going to sit something like this with the ECU and SG switch at the rear. Route the part of the harness going to the injectors and coils underneath the 2 brackets. Disconnect the original ignition coil connectors, plug in Cordona's gray connectors, and connect the black ones to the bike's wiring. Do the same for the injector connector. Switch to Cordona's gray connector instead and pair the bike's wiring with the Cordona loom through the black one. It works as a piggyback setup. This connector is for the optional shift light, which is no longer available, so just leave it disconnected. Connect the unit to the battery negative terminal, the black one, and route the shift rod inside of the frame down to where it mounts. Apply Loctite to the shift rod bolts and torque them to 10 Newton or 7 pound-feet. Tidy up the harness, secure it with zip ties, and trim the ends. Don't over-tighten. Cables don't like tension or sharp edges. Connect the sensor to the SG switch/module and insert the storage pin after drilling a hole at the front for the wiring. Apply Velcro and tidy everything up with zip ties here as well. Do the same with the cable at the top of the shift rod. This little plastic piece, actually just a cut-up water hose, acts as a spacer to help prevent wear on the cable. Make sure that there's a bit of slack so the cable can move freely when you shift. You can simulate a shift by pulling the peg down while rotating the rear wheel with the bike in gear. Once everything is in place, we'll reassemble. Start by putting the airbox back, reconnecting all hoses and cables on both sides, and make sure the manifolds seat properly on the throttle bodies. Tighten the clamps, the front and rear bolts, and refit the bracket holding the cables and hoses running across the top of the airbox. For the tank, reconnect the fuel hose and the connector, and give the tank a firm push from the back to help it drop into place. Refit the rear tank bracket, the side bolts, and the bolt by the radiator cap. This plastic piece mounts like this. Both ends have small locating tabs that fit into holes in the side panel, while the middle section slides underneath the panel. Reconnect the turn signal and put the inner side panel back on the bike. I think it's pretty straightforward from here, and you'll get the idea by just watching. Remember, it's the same procedure on both sides, so pause the video whenever you need to. Torque specs for the VOGE can be found in the workshop manual, and Google is your friend here. As mentioned in the beginning, this quickshifter comes preset because it's bike model specific, and if you'd like to fine-tune it and play around with shift force, kill time, or other settings, it's all described in Cordona's written instructions, which you'll find on their webpage. That's it, that's all on how to mount the Cordona PQ8 on a VOGE 800 Rally. And if you're interested in getting one, please visit Cordona's website. And as for this video, if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.